Hey, thanks for checking out my video. The Phrecia League is about to start, and I am going to be playing Gambler Frostblades. So this will be a video about Gambler and my league start plans. There'll be a POB down in the description, so if that's all you want, you can go down there and get it and have fun in the league. So there's a few Ascendancies that I think are sort of okay for Frostblades in this league. None of them are going to be an upgrade from the old ones, though. So if you're thinking that any of these new Ascendancies are going to be better, they're just not going to be. None of them are going to have as much damage as Warden, because Warden just gets like 70% more damage from every single point. And then none of them are going to be as tanky as Trickster either. So they're just going to be like a different take, I guess. But they're all going to play mostly the same. I think the worst one is Scavenger. If you went Scavenger, I'd go Cloak of Flame, and then Fury Valve, and then the elemental damage one for the bottom part. I think it's Doomfletch, but I think it's bad. The other two are Blind Prophet and Surfcaster. I think these are both worse than Gambler, mostly because on Prophet, the returning projectiles on Frostblades just doesn't really work. It's janky unless you invest in projectile speed, and then extra projectiles doesn't do anything for Frostblades. The base crit is good, and the elusive node here is really good, but the rest of it's just kind of mediocre. So I wouldn't really recommend Prophet over Gambler. Surfcaster's kind of the same way. The cold damage can shock node is really good. The lightning conversion node doesn't really do much. And then the onslaught node here is really good, and then the glacial wave node is pretty good. And then the reverse chill node is kind of a meme because there's not really a reliable way to sustain self-chilling yourself on an attack build unless you sacrifice like your ring and a jewel, and it's just it's not really recommended, I don't think. But you can play it, it might work. But I'm going to play Gambler. So I'm going to go over my league start POB here, which will be linked in the description. So I made an 85 and a 95 version for you guys to look at. So 85 will be day 1. And starting with Duelist, and comes down here, gets this ailment avoidance, life, cold pen, crit, damage, life, accuracy, avoid stun, resist, suppression, crit, evasion, penetration, elusive stuff, mark stuff, leech stuff, life stuff, and more accuracy stuff. And this is the overview. For leveling, I have some notes in the notes tab you can look at, but I have some act 1 to campaign trees in here you can look at, all the way up to the level 95 tree. And the loadout button up here, you can change between 85 and 95. So the gems are all in here. It's relatively similar to previous Frostblades builds that I've done. This is with a crappy claw, with an essence only and a craft, and on a 4-link still. It's got 800k damage, which will be more than enough to do red maps. And then once you get a 6-link and start adding in like Heat Shiver and the taming and stuff, your damage will just start ramping through the roof. And then by the time you get to 95 and you start getting gem quality, you start getting Heat Shiver, adding in the taming, just getting better gear, better flasks, better tinctures, get yourself a lethal pride. You'll be up to like 15 million damage in no time. And yeah, I don't really know what else I need to say about this. I've made this video a lot of times before, and like this build is not going to be really that much different. I've decided to build it pure evasion with suppression, and if you add in grace instead of flesh and stone, the build gets to about 85 evade. With the gear that I put in, you can use grace or flesh and stone. That's kind of an option that you'll have to decide. Grace costs more mana, but flesh and stone gives you better damage reduction, so it's kind of a choice there. And the rest of the items are all the same as before, except for Kilowava's Bluster. This is like the only new thing. So for Gambler, the Gambler Ascendancy nodes are here in the configs. This is what you get from each node. Most of it's self-explanatory. The Kilowava's Bluster, though, stacks with this chance to count as 90 res against enemy hits. So if you get a 40 roll on a Kilowava's Bluster, you'll have 90% chance to count as 90 res. So basically 90% of the time when you take a hit, you will take damage as if you had 90 ele res, which is a very powerful defensive layer. So your elemental mitigation on this build will be really good. The physical mitigation will not be really good. That's just sort of a downside of building it like this. But I'm going to be playing softcore SSF, and that's just kind of comes with the territory. But I've built wardens like this before and tricksters like this before, and it's plenty tanky enough with the power of freeze to stay alive, so I'm not concerned about that at all. This item is not that rare. I found one this league in hardcore SSF, so it should be acquirable. None of these items are super rare. Probably the heat shiver will be the hardest one to get. And I don't think I really need to say much else. The POB is pretty self-explanatory. There's a notes section here you can look at. There's some leveling notes here about using Wrath and Trinity early. This is how you can get ailment immunity. So you're going to get it pretty much for free because you're going to get 70% just passively. And then the easiest way to get it early is going to be from a chest and boot craft, from Unveil Crafts. And then once you get Kilowalva's Bluster, that has avoid ailments on it also. So you can use just that plus the chest craft and you'll be immune to ailments. Or optionally, if you want to go with just avoid ailments on boots, you can use a Deafening Essence of Loathing, and that will give you 30% at least. And that will give you complete ailment immunity even without the shield. And then stun immunity, you'll get this pretty much for free too. All you need is Risk Aversion plus Heart of Oak, which is these two nodes right here. If you take these two nodes plus have the Chestcraft, you will be immune to stuns. There's some other options you can add on here, which is basically Avoid Stun Tattoos, which is the Tessalio Tideshifter tattoo. And then also there's an Avoid Flask Suffix that can be relied on. So you can kind of mix and match these options however you see fit to get your stun immunity. So Heat Shiver and Trinity. I made a video about Trinity a little while ago. If you don't understand Trinity and when to use it, watch that video right there, linked in the notes section. Basically, once you get Heat Shiver, you can't use Trinity anymore. But before you get Heat Shiver, you can use Trinity and Wrath and go for a pure Elemental Claw, and it'll be better. For accuracy capping, there's some notes in here about how to do that. For Fury Valve, don't rely on your amulet for attributes or resists before you get a Fury Valve, and then brick your build when you put the Fury Valve on. So just keep that in mind if you're going to use it, which I recommend you do because it's the best for mapping. Taming, I get a lot of questions about how to get a taming. The 3 barracks rings vendor into a taming. The hardest one to get is the Respite, and you can farm it with Spark and the Flame div cards, which drop in Atoll and Plateau. So you can farm that yourself. It's pretty doable. I've done it before many times. Flesh and Stone and Grace are options that I talked about already a little bit. And then Enduring Cry and VLS are another defensive option. Without charge duration, though, Enduring Cry, and without Urgent Orders, it might not feel great. So you can add in that or not use it at all. It's up to you. And then VLS is a Rage generator. If you have a Lethal Pride with Rage on hit, using VLS to generate your Rage really quickly, and then the Rage on hit from the Lethal Pride will sustain it. That's a pretty good option, but it is completely optional. And that's about it for the notes. Look through here if you have questions about this stuff, and I'll link the POB down in the description. And I think that's all I really need to say for this video. So I hope you guys have fun in Phrecia League. And if you have any questions, come by my stream at twitch.tv/zishpoe. And like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys have fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.